Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class from Canto 2. Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 5, the Cause of All Causes. Text 32. And this morning I'm sitting in for His Grace Vishnugada Prabhu, who normally preaches on this day in the week, Thursdays. So without further ado, I'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopiya Vanava Girivadadari Gopiya Vallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Radhanaranjana Yashodanandana Radhanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajagacharya Stotra Satsisi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajagacharya Stotra Satsisi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय इसका फाउंडर चार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय समवेद भक्तवृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरे हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Krishna Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Deva Swami Nityanamani. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Tatmani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Deva Nityanamani. Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Vajirayat Nashta Praiswa Badri Sunityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 32. Yadaite Sangata Bhava Utendriya Manoguna Yadayatana Nirvane Nasheko Brahmavishtamam Yadaite Sangata Bhava Utindriya Manokuna Yadayatana Nirvane Nasheku Brahma Vistamam Yadaite Sangata Bhava Utindriya Manoguna Yadayatana Nirvane Nasheku Brahma Vistamam. Hare Krishna. Please chant if you feel so inclined.
यदते सङ्गता भाव भूतेन्द्रियमनोगुणः यदा यत्न निर्माणे नाशे कुर्ब्रह्मवित्तम. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
हरे कृष्ण यदैते सङ्गता भावा भूतेन्द्रियमनोगुणा यदा यत् न निर्माणेन Sheku Brahmavitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
यते ते संगता भावा भूतेन्द्रिय मनोगुणः यतायतन निर्माणे न शक्य न शेकुर ब्रह्मवितम. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other person?
हरे कृष्णा
Hare
यद्यते
Krishna.
संगत भूभावा भूतेन्द्रिय मनोगुण यद्यताना निर्माणे नाशेकर ब्रह्मवित्तमा. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right. Word for word. Yada, as long as. Ete, all these. Asangata, without being assembled. Bhava, remained so situated. Bhuta, elements. Indriya, senses. Mana, mind. Guna, modes of nature. Yada, so long. Ayatana, the body. Nirmane, in being formed. Nasheku, was not possible. Brahmavitama, O Narada, the best knower of transcendental knowledge. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Purport. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 61. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature. Just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing in the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the Maya or the male servant as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, goddess Durga, etc. The foolish childlike materialists cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. The parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of the Mahatattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence, and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows. Oma Gnati Virandisya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmritam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatiyadi Shatarini. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gosise Maha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Time. So the English translation again. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, the senses, the mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. So again, we're in the middle of some answer being given by Lord Brahma to Narada Muni. Lord Brahma's son is Narada, is one of the sons, but a very important son. As we've known, he has so many disciples himself, and these are disciples that are very, very great caliber. Prahlad Maharaj, Vyasadeva, they're all disciples of Narada Muni. But he's asking, because he has seen Lord Brahma go through meditation, and if he is the supreme, then there normally shouldn't be a situation where the supreme is going to meditation like that. Usually meditation is calling upon a higher power or a higher personality. And that's what prompted Narada, when he saw Lord Brahma in that pose, to ask him, but I thought you are the controller, the creator, but it looks like you're appealing to someone else. So he asked for clarity on that one. And he also asked about how the material energy is put together in terms of the details of it. Now that, of course, Brahma knows that very well because he was the one taught by Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as to how to create the planets and the different parts that were already present, how to fit them together into what we call material nature. So he's an assistant to Krishna or to Lord Vishnu in that sense. So he's also answering Narada Muni's question. So the forms of the body, the parts of the body are described in some of the texts before this one. And then he makes this is called the confirmation or the emphasis on it. The parts of the body are to come together to form, to result in a particular form. And so he says it the opposite way. If the parts are not there, then that form cannot be assembled together. In other words, he's stressing the importance of the parts that make up the body. And there are different bodies. For the living entities alone, 8,400,000, the types of bodies. Now, a distinction has to be made here because I've gotten the question about it, so I will just take the opportunity to explain it here also. There aren't 8,400,000 types of bodies as the population. That's not the case. The 8,400,000 are types of material bodies. For each material body, there will be a number of living entities having that type of body. Sometimes there is some variation, slight variations here and there. And this planet, living entities are great examples of it. Let's start from human beings. We know ourselves quite well, more so than we know other living entities. So the structure of the human body, this with the limbs, two two limbs, so the top and two limbs, the bottom, we call the hands and the legs. And for each one, there are five little parts of the limbs. 5 fingers on each hand, so we got 10 fingers total. 5 toes on each leg, so we got 10 total. That's the kind of body that we have here. By the way, we also have one head, as you know that it is not always every living entity has just one head. Lord Brahma has 4 heads, this one, and the other Brahmas that even have more than 4 heads, but they are also part of the bodies that are in the material world. So for this world, as the Prabhupada explained, the fact of color and the shapes of the different parts of the body, the slightly different shapes, that they are there for variety, true enough, but the body is considered one. This human body out of the 400,000, this is one. Now, so if this is one of the 400,000, how many are we in this planet? Almost 8 billion. So we have 8 billion of one type of body among the 400,000. So there could be another type, and we've seen or at least heard of other types. We just call them aliens. Some of them have hands, 2 hands, 2 legs, but then they have 3 fingers on each hand, naturally, not 5. So that's another species. And who knows how many numbers of them there are. So each one of them, each species, out of the 8,400,000, there's a whole bunch of them. Just like the dogs that we have here, they have particular shape. As you can see, the head's shape is pretty much the same. But there are different sizes and different colors and so on. That's also classified as one out of the animals. And the animals are 3 million total types of bodies. And so on this earth, this type of dog, how many there are? There are probably millions of this one type. So the forms of the body, as Lord Brahma is explaining, they can't take place unless these parts are put together. And he is the architect for putting these parts together. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, now we'll just say some things about the purport. Srila Prabhupada starts by saying that the different types of bodily construction of the living entities, they are just like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts, and we're well aware of that. There are different types of motor cars. And sometimes the shapes are different. Well, actually, practically all the time, the shapes are slightly different from one car to another. And then there's trucks, and then now there's SUVs and all of those that are parts of it. These are put together with, as we know, the parts. When we buy a car, we don't think so much about the parts, just only those ones that are important to us, that the mirrors that we have to look at, the steering wheel that we have to use, and of course the brakes and the gas pedal. And also the manipulating of the car's gears, which is for the most part automatic now. It used to be like manual. So these are there. When they are put together in the assembly plant, then the car is ready, it's tested, and then it's sold wholesale and then retail for car dealerships, as we call them, or whoever's advertising separately to sell the vehicle. The driver buys a car, sits in it, and moves it wherever they want to go. And that's what's happening here with living entities. This is an analogy to what's happening here. The living entity is as seated on the machine of the body, and the body is a machine. We know that different machines, when something goes wrong with them, they are repaired by the qualified repair person. That is also true of the body. Something goes wrong with the body, then sometimes this is repaired in what, I guess, to borrow the word, remote. We call them tablets or syrups or things like that to try to correct what's wrong with the body. or sometimes it's done in an external way by the surgeon. Some parts literally cut open the body, and some parts that are identified as the faulty parts are fixed. Sometimes they are removed. As long as the body can still survive, they are removed, and then the body is not quite the same, but still, it is not the real living entity. The soul is the real living entity, and therefore the body can go on, even in some circumstances. Now, Srila Prabhupada says, the living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from these body and the parts of the body. But as Srila Prabhupada puts them in that category of less intelligent material scientists are only concerned with the body, not realizing that no matter what we do with the body, there's a certain period of time set for that particular body. As a matter of fact, there's a certain number of breaths given to that particular body, after which the body won't function anymore. And so the fact of the matter is, when someone is sick and they go to the hospital, they may be cured. The person is hoping to get cured. But what happens is sometimes they do get cured and sometimes they don't. If that time is such that the number of breaths that are left for that body are pretty close to the end of it, the number that is designed for that particular lifetime, after the last breath is breathed, that person will not go on. Now, this is also, that means the person will leave. The soul will leave the body, and then that's we call death. And even if it is designed in such a way by karma that that person would die suddenly from some sort of accident, it is also not accidental in terms of what is planned. The number of breaths that person would take would still be the same. In other words, this life is such that some of us would leave by lying on a deathbed and going through a slow breakdown of the senses until there's no more functioning, and then the last breath is taken, and then the body is gone. But some people are also, based on their karma, going to die suddenly through some sort of accident. Some people may die with the body breaking down through old age, and some people may die because there's a particular disease that they get. It's all tied to what is supposed to happen as sinful reactions or things of that nature. And so with that, life is clearly temporary in this world. And an intelligent person will not spend time trying to deal with only the temporary things. We have enough intelligence in the human type body to begin to question why things are set up that way, that if we're here, we have to live, but we have to work to live. Now, in the sophisticated countries like America, the sophisticated materially, we have to work, and we also have to pay different aspects of our living conditions in order to live. We call them invoices, bills. So now it's organized a certain way, but there's no like free living. That's not even in the heavenly planets, that's in the spiritual world. That's free life in the spiritual world. And that's why Srila Prabhupada has explained that we have been put in this place like a real personality that we are, spiritual spark, who should be with the Father in the spiritual world, but they become a little bit, I wouldn't say curious, but a little bit stubborn on top of that. There's some curiosity. What would it be like if I had control rather than my Father had control? And so for requesting that, the Father has given to us here in the material world some freedom to act according to what we want. But one of the things that's happened is that the free lifestyle has been taken away. We have to work to get to live. Mm. And we say, okay, we're trying to lord it over material nature, but material nature is set up like a plaything for the child who wants something else, like control, to satisfy him. But the wisdom of the Lord, He's also set it up in such a way that those who come to their senses realize that we have actually been put in a suffering condition. Even though we say we want control, what has actually happened is we have limited control. Nature is still controlling us for the most part, and we're trying to make things easier for ourselves, but it's not working. It simply isn't. Hmm? If it is, how come so many people are in anxiety? That alone is an indication. Anxiety means something is not right, and we're getting a hint mentally that something is wrong, and that puts us in anxiety. Sometimes we know what it is, but not being able to fix it also puts us in anxiety. And so that's the life here. And so the next intelligent question is, well, if I've gotten myself in this situation, how do I get out and live in such a way that I won't be in anxiety anymore? Well, the path is what's called Krishna consciousness, taking us back to the way it used to be before we started telling our Supreme Father that we wanted control. It's called going back to Godhead. And so those who have come to this place, which is incarcerating, and pointing out that this is what's happened to us, stop trying to be successful or happy in this world in your own way of looking at things, trying to control material nature. Because even if you acquire things from material nature for yourself, more than others would have, that still won't give you genuine happiness. You have to detach from the material energy and concentrate on serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead like you used to do in the spiritual world. That will bring you happiness. Mm-hmm. So that's why, and so many of our sannyasis have quoted this statement by Prahlad Maharaj. If you want to be happy, stop trying to be happy through the material world. Mm-hmm. Stop trying to be happy through acquiring material things, basically. You have to submit yourself or surrender yourself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has the power to make you happy. And so if we do that, then Krishna immediately, he says, if you do like this, then I will do like this. Hmm? If you try to serve me with all your heart, I will give you the intelligence by which you can come to me. Teja satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Tadami buddhi yuganta yena mam upayantite. So he says, if you think of me, you become my devotee, you offer obeisances to me, and you worship me, you will come to me. So he gives the conditions. But that's for the person who is convinced, finally convinced, that this life here is a hard life. We've tried solutions. We've moved around to different countries, hoping for a better life. But then we find out that wherever we go, there is anxiety, there is suffering packaged in a different way. There is suffering in every country. It's just packaged in a different way. And sometimes you go one and says, okay, well, I can deal with this for a while. This is better. As now people are thinking coming to America is better. But what happens? Can America actually stop us from getting old? No. No country can stop us from getting old, no matter how it is run. Case in point, many of the politicians, when they realize that old age is about to take things away from them, their own minds, their own ability to function like they used to, then they go, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to leave. And so they try And sometimes even gets to the point where one particular politician had to be embarrassed, the whole country getting to know that he's actually challenged mentally. Hmm? But what did that? It's not his fault. Old age. This machine breaks down after a while. And so that is the reality of it. It's not like we can't use the machines, these bodies, but we have to use it with the understanding that we're living a temporary life, and it doesn't matter how well it's functioning now, it is going to break down. Everybody that is an old person, as we call them, senior citizens, a few decades back was younger, and our body was operating quite well, according to our standards here. And then it fell apart. Slowly, 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 it fell apart. And now the person that is an older person has to understand they are not far away from leaving this body. So then the intelligent question becomes, where am I going to go? What body am I getting next life? Hmm? But Shiva Prabhupada gives us even a better answer. The body is the cause of suffering. Get out and go back home to the spiritual world where there will be no suffering. And things are explained there actually we don't really have a good sense of how wonderful it is in the spiritual world. We only have a small idea. We've been gone a long time, so we don't remember. But as the doctor, the spiritual doctor that Srila Prabhupada is, he's not focusing so much on it, describing how the extent of this, the life in the spiritual world, how wonderful it is. He's focusing more on the things that we need to do in order to receive the mercy of the Lord so we can go back. As for the enjoyment, we'll find out. Mm-hmm. So he only left a few things here and there, points here and there about spiritual world that would lure us to take this process seriously. But the process itself is when what he spent the most time describing what we have to do to earn the mercy of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Krishna himself came and explained it to the hearing of Arjuna, to the discussion of Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita. He came in different incarnations, and what he said is recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev, Maharaj Shabbadev. They're all the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different incarnations. Krishna Dvaipanya Vyasa, who compiled the Vedas, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then his pure devotees, Prahlad Maharaj, Jat Bharat, they're all talking about different things we could do. The sons of Maharaj Vishabhadev, Maharaj Shabbadev himself preached, and that is in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5. You start from text, it starts right from the beginning, by text 1. And by the time you get to text 10, there's so many things that Maharaj Shabbadev has described about how to live our lives. First, the first text, he says that don't try to live life like an animal, going for the things to satisfy the senses only. The dogs and the hogs do that too in their own way. But you have to understand what this human body, the fortune that you have, relatively speaking, when the soul is in the human body. And take advantage of that. Don't spend time doing only material things, taking care of satisfying the senses for sense gratification. Because those without that kind of intelligence, those that are not in human bodies, they're doing that too. They don't know any better. So you shouldn't act like you don't know any better also. Basically, it's what Maharaj Shabbadev is talking to his 100 sons. And then he tells them so many things about disconnecting from the material energy, making it all in all, but actually connecting more with spiritual responsibilities. Then he says, sense gratification especially is going to keep us in the material world. So we should detest it. The things that make us continue to suffer in the material world, they shouldn't be things that we should like. We should actually dislike them or even more intensely hate them. So then he says, detest sense gratification. And then the one that follows, it brings sense gratification up again. This is Canto 5, Chapter 5, text 10 through 13, tells you what to do and what not to do. He also said, do not make arrangements for sense gratification, which means the material types of get-togethers and the drinking and the smoking and all of those things. Well, we already have them under the regulated principles. We've been told, don't live like that. Hmm? Rather than do that, turn the attention to Krishna consciousness, and the enjoy is also enjoyable. Krishna consciousness is also enjoyable. Krishna consciousness also uses the senses. Krishna consciousness also satisfies the same material senses, but in a different way. It satisfies the material senses when we use the material senses to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. This is how we become happy, and at the same time prepare to go back home, back to Godhead. So it boils down to doing only spiritual things as priority and the material things only as is necessary. And that's life. When we understand it this way, do the necessary thing, the necessary thing, just out of necessity to keep the body and the soul together. Hmm? If you have more materially, give more. If you have more materially and you give less, you are going to be attached to what you have. It's automatic. It follows that you want to get attached to it. You don't want to give it up. Therefore, you're paid well, but you contribute little. And if you contribute little, that means you're attached to what's there still. And you rather have huge savings and small amount given to Krishna. Well, that attachment is going to be, if we do that, that's going to be our undoing. Because when the time comes to leave the body, we will not detach from them. The thought will come, but this body is going to keep me from the wealth that I have. Why? I don't like it. I would like to continue to be wealthy. And as soon as that is accepted in the mind, then the soul will be taken by the mind and intelligence, the subtle body, to the next existence to plan to be involved with money again. It means we haven't understood that the anxieties of the world are not solved by money. But the more we give, this is the other side, the more we give, the more detached we become. Because giving means we are voluntarily parting with the things that we have materially. Charity comes with it. As soon as you give in charity, and Grihastas, especially that particular ashram, the Grihasta ashram, that's more connected with the material energy, more so than Brahmachari and Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. The Grihasta and Vanaprastha also connected more with the material energy. And of those two, the Grihastas are more connected with it, the householders. The Vanaprasthas, they're retired. They retired from household life, they retired from regular work and so on. So the more we give, the more we prepare to go, because it means we are detaching. We are allowing voluntarily for our material things to go to serve Krishna. You have to give for service to Krishna, because in other ways you can give, you can, contribute to other material things or even give to other persons. But you can't be sure how it will be used. And if things are used for the wrong reasons, then the person that gave and made it possible for that to happen is also held responsible. For example, many of us don't kill cows. We don't. And those who eat meat, they also don't kill the cows. Very few people actually do the killing of the cows. But the killing of cows is going on because there are some people who are prepared to eat the meat, the flesh of the cows, when it's literally they'll buy them and eat them. And so they are supporting the killing of cows. So the supporters are also accessories. accessories to the wrongdoing. So they are also punished like that. So we may not do some of the things that are bad ourselves, but we allow it to go on by supporting, giving the very things that those who are killing the cows want, and that is finances, to get that business going, to keep it going, to even cause it to grow. Then they advertise, and we go for it. But Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara have pointed out to us, Krishna loves us so much, he comes himself and tells us how to live this life in such a way that we get out of this jail. And then his pure devotees have been tasked with the responsibility of spreading it. So the books have been printed and then they are distributed all over the planet in order for people to have better understanding what life really is like and how to get away, live an alternative lifestyle that is spiritual for the most part, with only the material energy dealt with only as necessary. And that way, we get out. So yes, the parts of the body are put together because we ourselves want to come here. Not that we want to come suffer. Not that we want to do that. We wanted freedom. But it doesn't work like that. And therefore, we were given so-called freedom in the material world. And now we find ourselves struggling just to live because what? The physical body is part of us. And the physical body has to be taken care of. So, Srila Prabhupada just talks about materialists and puts them in, where exactly they need to be mentally. He says the foolish and childlike materialists cannot reach beyond the conception of material nature. But the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know very well that the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord. Therefore, if we come to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he is the controller. Therefore, whatever that we want, because of his love for us, it will be taken care of by him or through his energies or through his different parts and parcels. But it will be taken care of. So, yes, the parts of the bodies are first made available, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord through the training that he gave to Lord Brahma, who is the one that's speaking, then the material body comes into existence. And the living entity are allowed, allowed to use it for further activities. So, Ishwara Sarvabhutanam, Hidesha Junitishtati, Brahmayan Sarvabhutani, Jantra Rudani Mayaya. So that is the summation in one particular text that Supreme Lord talks about. He says the Lord is situated in everyone's heart and is directing the wanderings of all living entities. The Lord is in Paramatma in the heart. He's directing where we go. And we wander about in this particular planet as like seated on a machine made of the material energy. And that's our situation. But we don't have to live this all of the time, lifetime after lifetime. The goal now should be how to get out, and it's done through Krishna consciousness. And so we have to be totally convinced that, one, we're not independent. We are independent of, we are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're not independent. Sri Prabhupada in one lecture says, if we think we are independent, that means we're going to be even more dependent. But we'll be an illusion at the same time, thinking that we are independent. So the living entity is not independent. They are under the control of the material nature. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, then we use the material nature to our advantage. We give in order to learn how to disentangle ourselves from the complexities of material nature. We give charity. And we also use only what is allotted to us, just like Sri Upanishad explains. And then around the world, you see people doing the wrong thing, trying to acquire more and more and more and more, even at a national level, trying to acquire more and more and more parts of the planet. And it is a joke. They're not understanding that the planet, it owns its own by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He has deputed the material energy, the controllers of the material energy, and people worship them. As Sri Prabhupada talked about, they think material energy is feminine, so they worship Durga, and all these other demigods. And Krishna says that is the wrong way to do it. Surrender to Krishna, and we will be happy. Here, He will give us the best protection we can ever hope for anywhere, just like He did for Prahlad Maharaj. He came as Shingadev just to save him. And the trouble that he took to satisfy all of the boons given by Lord Brahma to Hiranyakashipu. He didn't break any of them and still killed them and removed them. So if the Lord will go to that extent from one devotee, then Prahlad Maharaj says that the Lord is actually like that. Don't think that it's just a special favor for me. He'll do it for everybody. Everybody. He'll come in just the way that is needed for your protection and for my protection. All we have to do, surrender to Him, and then we won't have much to be worried about. And then our end will be also glorious. Because when we leave the Lord, we will go to a place where there's no anxiety and everything is provided. And we serve in love. Shira Prabhupada Ki Jai. So everything considered, we're looking forward to actually a better situation after this body, if we take this process seriously. So dear devotees, this is the time to ask questions, to share realizations, to connect the dots that you like. Connect the dots means take what you've heard and add it to something else that you've heard before this and to make sense of it, to get a bigger picture. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all Bishop Prabhupada.
Glory to the Prabhupada.
One point that struck me is, when you were speaking about how we wanted to be the controllers, and Krishna is giving us the free will to be the controller because we envied him being the controller, because he was controlling, he was the Supreme Lord, and we wanted to be the Supreme Lord, lack of a better word. So we became the controllers in this material world, many controllers trying to control things to make it better. And as when you were mentioning something like trying to make it, trying to do this, trying to do that, I was thinking that as much I had this thought in my mind, as much as we wanted to be the controller, thinking that we know better and we can make things better, but we are making more of a blunder being the controller, so to speak. If including myself, but if each of us were to think of how we thought that we could fix the issues or the problems or be the controller, we are creating more mess. We just think we got it together, but we don't. We are creating even more mess, even more blunder, even more issues, even more, problems, whatever you want to call it. But and because of that, we are in this age of Kali Yuga, where everything is an age of, quarrel, because we think we can fix it and we can't. And because we think we can and we want to be the controllers, Krishna's, we are giving ourselves more problems. And with more problems, we create more quarrels. So I was just thinking, wow, what a mess we got ourselves in. I was just thinking about that. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, if a person gets to a point where they realize that they put themselves in a mess, that is actually a blessing. Because if somebody, we'll just take a simple example here. Somebody is addicted to drinking alcohol. But if they don't get to the point where mentally they accept the fact that they are actually making life difficult for themselves by drinking the alcohol, they don't get to that point, then they won't make any arrangements or submit to arrangements that's there to help them to stop taking the alcohol. So the first point is the realization that we've done the wrong thing. Mhm. And that is given to us by the troubles which we go through materially. Many countries, you realize that even if, I mean, that's what I'm going to talk about is very few cases that happens where the people are, most of them are satisfied with the kind of government that they have. Let's take this is the better situation. But still they're going through struggle. The overwhelming majority of people in different countries don't like their governments. Somehow they feel something about it is not right. We're being cheated. Sometimes it's the big companies that cheat. Sometimes it's just, but this is going on all of the time. Why? Well, it is described in the Shastra. This is one of the 4 defects of a human being, the tendency to cheat. The tendency to cheat. It's done at all levels. And when a person gets cheated, then their day is a bad day for them. Literally, they don't like it at all. But nobody cheats anybody in the spiritual world. So that's the place to be. Mm-hmm. If we give ourselves more and more trouble by trying to remain in the material world lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, thinking that there will be some sort of solution. But actually, all that happens is the regular things, the things that we did, especially those things that were bad, categorized as bad, we're going to go through sinful reactions. Therefore, the next life, there will be more suffering. But in Krishna consciousness, once a person gets initiated, those so-called good or bad karma that's supposed to come in the future all get wiped away. Well, we're in a different category. The things that happen in our own lives, how we lead our lives, is taken care of not by Jamaraj anymore, the superintendent of death, but by the super soul. The account is transferred to the super soul. The Lord takes charge of the person's life. And then there's so much in terms of spiritual masters, senior devotees, so much instruction that's there for that person to follow in order to live the life that would earn the mercy of the Lord, so that Lord would say, all right, after this life, you come home. And that's what is set for devotees. As long as we go by the process and take it seriously, that's the main thing. We have to be eager to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eagerness, very much important. That's the price. Learn the process, but be eager to serve also. So if you don't serve much and you think that you definitely would like to, you see the management, and also 2 things. You ask for that. And secondly, whenever something needs to get done and you see it, especially in the temple, because the temple is the embassy for the Lord. Everything you do in the temple gives you spiritual credits automatically. You see something that could be done, don't wait to ask, can I do it? No. Take the initiative and do it. Take the initiative. The parents should teach their children to be like that, to take the initiative. Some of the parents are on here, but their children are not on here. Therefore, you teach them. You teach them like that. Take the initiative. If you learn how to do something that is good for service in the temple, every time that opportunity comes, you're in the temple, look forward to doing that. Take advantage of it. Don't wait to be told. That way, then you do your best. And so parents should advise. You've got anyone that's over 15 years old, where you don't, now the Papa says, we're talking about 15 and up, are the times where the parent becomes more like a friend. So you can advise them, and you should. All of us should. Get children excited to do and understand that service is actually what will free all of us. That's our life, devotion service. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you for the comments. Yeah, we put ourselves in a terrible situation, but we can get out also. This is a process. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thanks. On the basis of scholarship.
All glories to the devotees on the call. Yeah, very nice class. Actually, the verse itself is a nice verse. Actually, I was reading yesterday with one devotee, The Perfection of Yoga, Prabhupada book.
Perfection of yoga.
And
Okay.
this particular point, yeah, the specific point comes up in that book reading. It says, I'm reading from the book itself now.
Mm-hmm.
It is not within any man's power to beget a living entity. Merely by sexual intercourse, a living entity cannot be begotten. The living entity is simply placed in the emulsification of secretions, and the body develops around him. This is the
Yeah.
word Srimad Bhagavatam. It is pretty much connected to this verse. Like, and the second thing we were reading, you were talking about, like, the material world. Yeah, we were reading, like, at other place. For one who takes to spiritual culture, this material world is actually unfit. So
This material world is what?
this is it, Davanta Saraswati used to say, this place, this material world is actually unfit. This material world is actually unfit. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says,
Mm-hmm.
this place is not fit for a gentleman. Once one has approached Krishna and has attempted to make spiritual progress, Krishna, who is situated within the heart, begins to give direction. Yeah, this
Yes.
was a, like, connected points that I remembered from.
Hmm. Thank you very much for sharing that also. Yes, a person who takes the Krishna consciousness, then the intelligence is given, the direction is given, the instruction is given, and then encouragement is given just in the association of devotees. Mm. When you're around somebody that's doing the same thing that you're required to do, it's easier to work with them as a team. And you get more comfortable with them because you know they understand why you're doing what you're doing. So association of devotees is the best because if we don't, then Maya will take over our minds. And we think that we can succeed, but we can't succeed on one person cannot be judge, jury, and prosecution and everything. No, and defense. It doesn't work that way. Maya can easily overtake us and we will not be successful in our spiritual life. So we have to be associating with devotees to be reminded and encouraged and questions answered. Then we can be successful. Hare Krishna. Devotees are very important in this process. So there's one question. There's one point in the chat made by Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the beautiful class. Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. When it comes to serving Krishna, serving in Krishna consciousness, Srila Goswami emphasizes on our attitude while serving and practicing devotion in the Nectar of Instruction. Yes, both books, Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction, very, very important. Nectar of Instruction is a small book, but packed with so much information. Mm-hmm. Very, 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 very important information. Things that we should do in order to generate love between ourselves. It's explained. Things that we need to stay away from, in order that we don't fall in the pit of the problems in spiritual life. That's explained. Even the first text talks about a person that what they have to have in order to qualify to make disciples all over the world. That's also explained. Nectar of Instruction is just 11 texts, 11. But Srila Prabhupada had made a whole book out of the 11 texts because for each text, the purports, the commentaries are very long, and that make the bulk of the book because 11 texts can actually fit into normal 2 or 3 pages. That's it. But if it was a small book, the rest of it is all commentary on the things that that Rupa Goswami expanded on. Nectar of Devotion is also a book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The book with texts, but there's commentary on it made by Srila Prabhupada, and that's the one that is sold more around us. So many things about what to do and what not to do, and why, and what happens when you do them, and what happens when you don't do them in devotional life. So that is those two are the wonderful books, the to-do books for spiritual life. And we have to take those. We gotta, study those. One question from dear Christian Prabhu: how do we make sure we do not end up serving someone's personal agenda, but only serve Krishna's agenda? People get confused and off track due to incorrect understanding and guidance, even on this path of devotion. Very important question: how to make sure that we do not end up serving someone else's personal agenda, but serve only Krishna's agenda. First of all, the Shastra supports the fact that there are particular incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are listed. If a person comes and says, I am an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they're not listed in the Shastra, they are automatically bogus. They have a different plan, personal agenda to take advantage of people. Don't go to those people. For us, all of the incarnations of the Lord that have come and left, their activities are recorded in our Shastra, in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and all the other books that supported the Srila Prabhupada gave commentary on. So we know which books to turn to. It boils down to this. We have to be taking Krishna consciousness seriously under the guidance of what Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do. And we mention Srila Prabhupada because with him you can't go wrong. There are others with other motives. They may be genuine, it may not be genuine. And it is true that there are 4 sampradayas, and we are in one of the sampradayas. But we can also be misled by people who claim to be, they are in the sampradayas. They come into the sampradayas, they won't stay outside, but to get us to be fooled and go according to their plans. Therefore, even in Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya that we are part of, we are literally charged to look at whatever situation that we hear from others in terms of what the Shastra says. Is what this person is saying supported by the scriptures, especially by the ones that Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's disciples have written? Is it supported there? If it's not supported there, then that's your cue that this is a person that's coming in disguise, pretending to be a genuine follower, but they're not. They have their own agenda. It also gives us the opportunity to have some discussion, which is always very good, sometimes for clarity. But what the person is saying, whatever they're saying, it has to be supported by the Shastra. Otherwise, they have their own agenda. And don't follow people who are like that. Srila Prabhupada has said that, yes, Maharaj Parikshit heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami for 7 days. And some people are imitating 7 days by also just speaking Bhagavatam for 7 days. Maharaj Parikshit heard Bhagavatam until he died. The number of days happened to be 7 because of the curse. But he heard Bhagavatam daily from that point on. And that's what we should also be about. And the Shastra supports it. Astaprayesu abhadesu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Nityam, always. Serve Bhagavatam by hearing and by discussing Bhagavatam. So that way, you will grow and not be fooled by others who come in with other agenda. Where is this supported? When somebody makes a statement, they have to be able to back it up with the authentic Shastra. And that way we won't get deceived. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question. Very good question. Very broad question. Hare Krishna. Any final comments? If not, then we thank all of you.
Can I
Sure.
add to Dear Krishna's question?
Absolutely.
Very, very nice question, actually. What is coming to my mind, like you talked about, is, guidance, Guru Sadhu Shastra. Sometimes we tend to forget the Guru, we tend to forget the Sadhu, and we forget the Shastra. We are blind, it's because, I mean, that is just the fact, because we forget the Guru and we forget to ask the Guru. And even if the Guru is there, we don't ask the Guru, we don't ask the seniors. And when we don't ask the seniors, then we don't check with the Shastra, because we just want to do what we want to do. So that's a dangerous part. So, which means when people act that way, that means they lack the training and the educating. That's why in Prabhupada's, his first out of his 7 mission, purpose of his, ISKCON 7 purpose of mission, the first one was to train and educate. That is the key point. If we just if we focus on training and educating and teaching and guiding, then all this we won't have that issue so much. But because we are lacking that part, that training part, the educating part, the teaching part, the guiding part, because that's where we really drill the Guru Sadhu Shastra. Very good point that you mentioned. And another point that you mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, actually, Nectar of Devotion is actually ISKCON's Bhakti Handbook, by the way. It's, it's just been, there are other Bhakti Handbooks that have been condensed from the Nectar of Devotion, but Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction is the Bhakti Handbook for ISKCON devotees. However, I would strongly suggest that devotees who want to read that book, please don't read on your own, because when it's like going to school, when you want to take a math or a chemistry or a science class, you cannot learn the book on your own and pass the test, quiz, or exam. You need a teacher. The same thing applies to any scriptures and Shastra. When we start reading these books, and especially Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, we have to learn and study with a senior devotee, a spiritual mentor, to understand how to practice devotional practices given to us by Srila Rupa Goswami. So I just wanted to share that very important point. It's not that we just read and we just learn. No, we have to read with the devotee, with a senior and a mentor and a guide to help us understand how to apply those practices in our daily life. Hare Krishna.
Very important point that you've made about the books and reading and getting questions answered. If we read on our own, and we've seen, there are some people who've come to the temple and said, I've read this, I've read this, I've read this, and I know, and they begin to talk about what they've learned, and it doesn't take long to realize that there are some inconsistencies that they themselves came to thinking that what they read meant that, what they were talking about. But then it's wrong. And those people, as long as they don't get any kind of guidance and they stick stubbornly to what they think that they figured out from reading, they don't last in Krishna consciousness. I've seen them come and go. I've seen them come and go. So you have to literally come to Krishna consciousness and study and be part of Krishna consciousness the same way you go to school, as Mataji explained. We have teachers. We have textbooks, but then you also have teachers. And we go to classes regularly in order to understand what the do's and the don'ts are, or the points about that particular subject. Then the book becomes a supplementary. They add more to it. So when you read, you have better understanding, but your questions have to be answered by a person with experience. Krishna consciousness is a life. Therefore, there's a way to live it. And when it comes to living a certain thing, you have to be trained. Just like a doctor studies all things material and Please excuse me for a quick second, because so it is very important. We will make several mistakes, not knowing that we are making those mistakes, unless we get guidance from people who are experienced. Just like in the medical field, you don't become a doctor just by graduating from medical school. You are under the help of somebody who's experienced, who trains you. You do this, you do that, you do that, and they'll tell you, remember what you learned in medical school? This is how you apply it. This is what you do here. And these other things, it's not in the books, but it's part of what you have to do. And if you don't do that, then you will not really understand and become more experienced in the total picture of how you lead the life. It is also true in the spiritual life. Some things will not be in the books. Some things it takes training. Mm-hmm. And an untrained person will make all kinds of mistakes. And we have that situation going on in the temple now. There's more people that we have to talk to. There are people who are learning. That's understanding that is new. But there are people who also have been from a while, but unfortunately they didn't get the training. And so they're making mistakes. And that has to be, the management is actually aware of that. We do everything that we can in order to have people understand what it is, the training part, what it is that they need to do. Hmm? Same thing with parents. The parents raise us, they train us what to do and what not to do. So training is very important. Thank you for bringing it up, Hare Krishna. Any more questions or points to be discussed? If not, then we thank all of you for coming on. Very important that you come. Those who come every day during the week to hear are benefiting tremendously. You can't, they don't you see, when you live your life, how much is there actually that you gain just from hearing what to and what not to do, and things that are discussed. Panchakalpatarubhascha kripa sundibhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again for coming. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Hare Krishna.